Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I do hope you've had an absolutely incredible week and I do hope you're having a great Friday. In today's video I have for you a character that in my opinion has a really high chance of being a main character inside of the DLC. It's unclear whether he'll be a villain or a hero or an anti-hero or an anti-villain, whatever you want to call it. We really don't know that, but all evidence points to him having some sort of involvement in the DLC. His name is Rosus, the Usherer of Death. Now, I would not blame you at all if you've never heard of this guy. I hadn't until I had went looking for lore. I have not ever seen a single video on this guy, and yet his importance is really felt around the lands between. Hell, you can even find his statues everywhere. Absolutely everywhere in the lands between where there are catacombs, they have his statue. So why has he not been talked about? Well, I think it goes back to this old adage that we continuously see when it comes to the lore of games and specifically Elden Ring. If it is hard and there's only one item description, people won't cover it because the likely chance of getting it to a 10-minute video is very low, and that means less revenue, which is the sad truth. But enough of that. Let's get straight into it. The first item description, and the only one we get of Rosus, is in Rosus's axe, a ritual and ceremonial weapon that summons forth those who live in death. And while that's all cool and dandy, I know some of your ears are probably perked at the live in death comment, and mine did too. But before we get into that part, I want to talk about a certain bit at the beginning where it talks about how everyone needs help being ushered into the afterlife. Everyone needs a guiding hand at some point, and that's exactly what Rosus is. If you don't know, an usher is a person who helps you to your seat. For example, you could have an usher at your wedding who helps you to your seat and tends and helps people. That's exactly what Rosus does, only not at a wedding. Oh, maybe he did it at Marika's wedding, but you know, we can't know that. Rosus uses his guiding hand to lead them to the catacombs where, in the normal age, they would have been reborn. But now we see them crouching outside of all these catacombs in agony, waiting to be reborn, yet that reborn process that is so integral to these people's lives will never happen, for the shattering occurred and we do not know what happened to Rosus. But we do know that Rosus' statues can be located outside of every single catacomb. It's something that you might have seen in, say, your first playthrough, when you're really in-depthly looking through everything. There was a guiding light, like the ghost flame, which followed you and led you to the catacombs. I could not replicate this for whatever reason, but in the first time, in my first playthrough when I was playing, and I found these statues, a blue light would shine up and lead me to the catacombs. For this video today, on a new save, a new game cycle, I could not replicate this for whatever reason. Perhaps it was removed or I did not do something right, but I remember it being there, and if you do too, please let me know. I don't know if I'm going crazy. Now that we've talked about the purpose which Rosus serves, we need to talk about something else. What is Rosus? Well, we don't know. You might all be thinking, oh well, it mentions those that live in death, so maybe it has something to do with Godwyn. But I don't think this is to be the case, because the role of Rosus is to guide those who have died to the afterlife, to the catacombs, to be reborn. But because of those who live in death, they are perpetually stuck dead. So, in my eyes, perhaps these those who live in death that you summon with this axe are in fact those he's tried to guide, but he's like, hey, wait a minute, brother, what are you doing? How are you still here? That seems like the most logical explanation to me. Not to mention, when you actually summon these spirits, you do in fact see the flame of the ghost flame. Now, we've talked about the ghost flame multiple times, and as we've said multiple times, and I've said over the last year, there is a high chance, it's my biggest theory, that the Ghost Flame is going to be integral to the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. I know a lot of people, as of late, have started taking that theory on as well, but I have said it since the beginning, The Ghost Flame is going to be part of the DLC. I just know it. And I think there's no better person to help with that than Rosus, who seems to have this some kind of godly power over those who live in death. For even in the catacombs, we see those who live in death, the very, very same skeletons that we summon. And when they die, you can see the Ghost Flame flowing up from them. Perhaps those who live in death are a bit special, imbued with the Ghost Flame, eternal servants of Rosus, the usherer of death. Now that we've talked about who Rosus might be aligned to, we need to actually talk about what Rosus is. Is he a demigod? Is he just some powerful ass motherfucker? Or is he a god in of himself? Well, we really don't know, but I definitely believe he has some connection or some godly essence to him, due to the fact that his powers surpass that of any, apart from maybe Miquella's, that we know of. There's also something to mention when you actually look at the statues, which we haven't actually talked about yet. The Ghost Flame is found in that blue light. I have seen it. I can't find the video, but in this post-editing, if I do find the video, or a video of it, I will link it and I will put it on the screen right now for you. Not to mention, on his head he possesses a crown of thorns. Or roots, it could be either one. I'm thinking it may be more roots, considering we actually see roots wrapped around his statues. Now, when you think of roots, people are normally going to bring up Godwyn and his brood and his sort of powers of death, which would make sense when you think that, well, Rosus is an usherer of death. But I feel there is a lot more to Rosus than a loyal servant to Godwyn. Where on earth did the concept of death come from? It came from the Elden Ring. Who had it before Malekith? The gloam-eyed queen. But who had it before the gloam-eyed queen? We don't know. We physically do not know how the gloam-eyed queen got a hold of destined death. I think Rosus is the biggest candidate for who could have had control over death before the gloam-eyed queen. Who's to say that the concept of order that came down with the Elden Beast was the only concept of order that was around? If the Ghost Flame, which we know is to do with death, we know you can summon the Ghost Flame by burning the bones of your fellow kindreds. What if in a time before the Elden Ring, Rosus ruled with his power of the Ghost Flame, one that controlled death itself? What if then eventually the gloam-eyed queen took this death and her demi-godly powers tainted the Ghost Flame, making it the black god-killing flame? Where has the Ghost Flame gone? We do not know. We do not get these answers, and that gives even more reason to believe he has something to do with the Elden Ring DLC. Both the Ghost Flame and the black god-killing flame are very, very similar in appearance. They're both flames. The only difference, one is blue and he's cold, the other is black, which there's not much difference. It's just a colour palette change, which I think is because the gloam-eyed queen tainted the Ghost Flame, which brought this whole new section in. Hey, how do we even know if it's the full truth that the Elden Ring was originally part of the Elden Ring and came down with the Elden Beast? It might not have even been part of it originally. We know that Marika took away death for the demigods and the gods. This was part of something she did while messing with the Elden Ring to achieve immortality. Marika the Eternal, so on and so on. Who's to say this isn't a lie? Who's to say the Greater Will even put death into the Elden Ring? We simply cannot know. Which, again, feels like it's hinting at something in the DLC. I know we had it with Sekiro. There were so many things that could have been talked about in a DLC, but the DLC never came. So this could be a situation like that. But I'm crossing my fingers and my toes to hope that there is some more info on this, and maybe we can see the truth. This is all without talking about the unknown insignia that is found on the bottom of this statue. Now, this might be a little bit far-fetched or a bit bonkers. I know some of you have called me a bit of a nutter, and you know, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult, But regardless of that, the bottom, the Insignia, it looks like a piece of wheat that's been strung around with rope or something, that's bundled together. Which is quite a coincidence, seeing though a very similar looking wheat is also found in the DLC image trailer teaser. The ghost flame seems to mimic the Erd tree and its effects on the world. Shadow of the Erd tree. Yeah, it's just a theory, but I think it's really highly likely that this is the case. And there seems to be a lot gunning for it. Maybe the weak bit's a bit far-fetched, but I would not be surprised considering From Software is even more bonkers than I can be. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it truly and greatly helps the channel in more ways than one. If you are liking this style of content, then please let me know down below, as it also lets me know that you are enjoying this style of content and want to see more just like it. Anyways, I won't hold you any longer. May you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.